We are in gate 40 and we're in the line 4. Hello. Today, this gate is called organization. It's not, that's an absolute lie. This line is called organization. The gate is still the gate of aloneness and deliverance. It's a good start, isn't it? The 4th line is rooted in the role of being opportunistic. All 4th lines are opportunistic in nature. That's the mechanic. These are people who pick the right opportunity to rest. These are the ones in the office who are just, they're just lying back and they've got their feet on the desk, they've got their eyes closed, just picking that moment. And then somebody's looking and they're just up and about and like, yeah, they're back at it again. They have that perfect tune into the opportunity they've got. And they insist on that. It's really important to them. They know that they must take their opportunities to rest as and when they arrive. And the perfect opportunity to enter into a bargain. They can be very good at making money. They can know exactly the right moment to make the right bargain. It's all about timing and taking that opportunity. They are in the upper trigram. They have a transpersonal process, which is taking place in a social channel. And the 4th to the 6th lines, they have a very specific social skill set. The 4th lines being fixed and one-pointed. They are unidirectional, they are one-tracked. And they have that gift of being able to know when to be alone and when to externalize their qualities of friendship or the qualities of community that come through the channel. In the exaltation, there is the power to transform in the intuitive intellect, to select and organize for the purpose of maintaining deliverance. The power of the ego, when organized and active, to maintain separateness. I'm just going to check that I said that right. Transform. The power to transform and the intuitive intellect to select and organize. Say that right. No matter how engaged the 40 is, no matter what contract the 40 makes, it never loses its ability to stay alone. Before entering a new job, the 40 needs to make sure that it can have its own cubicle or its own office. It has to be able to go home and go into its own room and close the door in order to be alone. It has to be able to return to its separateness. That's part of its reward. And it might not have to be there for hours in its aloneness and its separateness, but it needs some time to build on the recuperation from the first line. The 1 and the 4 have a resonance together. And so it taps into that. 4th line still needs to, but the whole hexagram, of course, is built on the foundation of recuperation. Resting doesn't have to be lying in bed napping. It can be doing absolutely nothing, yes, but it can also just be that thing that the ego does that it doesn't have to do, that nobody's pulling out of it. Something it does because it enjoys it. That's its reward. And that might be lying in bed doing nothing. It might well be, it works for me. But, it's that thing of like, but my work is done. I've worked really hard. My time is my own. That's it's a kind of a freedom, the illusion of freedom. That's when it can enjoy that part of the bargain. When you know that there is something else on the other side, then you know exactly how much work you need to do in order to keep them happy and keep them quiet to a degree, so that they continue to massage your ego, and so you have a chance to rest. In other words, the more you organize your life on the material plane, with your job, with your work, your rest, your relationships, the healthier you're going to be. This is what being organized means in the context of gate 40, line 4. Being able to do your work and then having the time to kick back and relax. In the detriment, we have an uncontrollable zeal that ignores the quality of support in preference for the quantity, which in the long run may destabilize deliverance. The empowering of the ego through the capacity to organize others. So this is all about being able to control the contract. It's always about that. being able to control the bargain. Fourth line is trying to make friends with you. You know, it's very good at that. It's able to externalize that quality. And of course, because it's the ego, when it has a good bargain and it's organized others, you know, it can make a really good deal. It can get really puffed up with that deal. Hey, look at this great deal that I've made. I work 2 hours a week and I'm getting all of this money and you're doing all of the work. It can actually show off a little bit and it can upset people because it can go into that place of like, well, I'm not doing much work and I'm getting all of this and yeah, sucker, well done. And that can might not necessarily go down well. It can upset people. So all of these fourth line, you know, these are people who actually can be workaholics. This is part of the makeup there. So there needs to be some real awareness on the amount of work that's being done and the balance of the rest. The fourth line has a very fixed nature. So they are externalizing the love of work. Remember, this is a love gate, a love of work. And so they can just keep going, getting their ego massaged as they go along, you know, because of how hard they're working. But that is not enough. Getting your ego massaged, being recognized for your hard work is not enough. That can get so dangerous for one's health. Because the more you overwork the ego, the less productive it actually becomes, the less efficient it becomes. And you don't want this gate of denial to suddenly go, no, no more. I'm done. So it's always that thing of bring in the rest, bring in the rest, bring in the rest. Get your recuperation. Make sure that is really high on your list when you make your bargain. I will do this, but I must get this amount of rest. So it's grounded in gate 37 in the line 4, which is called leadership by example. So what a great support for this 40 line 4, organizing people to get their opportunity to rest. You know, it's a really good example, isn't it? This is leadership by example, and that 37 is really supporting that. It's a kind of walking the talk, isn't it? It's do as I do. The 37 is the gate of friendship. In this fourth line of friendship, there's lots of opportunity for friendship here, and lots of opportunity to influence the example. So how does this description land with you? Do you have this activation? Please share your experience if you'd like to. It's always so interesting for me to hear what other people have got to say. And as I've said to you before, you know, this is not an activation I have. I do have the 6th line, but I haven't got the 4th line here. I'd love to know what it's like, because then when I meet other people through my teaching in the way that I do, you know, share my anecdotes with them, then I've got something solid to say. Ah, I heard this about the 40 line 4. So if you ever have anything to share, I'd be very grateful for whatever it is your own input might be. The moon has been in gate 33 since 8:51 this morning. It's the gate of privacy, the gate of retreat, a little bit more kind of rest and recuperation. This is the gift of expressing wisdom through the throat. And it's wisdom that has been gathered through experience, because it's in the experiential, the abstract circuitry. So there can be a very strong need for privacy here. Privacy is necessary in order to contemplate and ponder experiences. You know, those lessons that have been learned from all those experiences along the way. And the next gate is 7 at 1948. This is the gate of the army, the gate of the role in interaction, the role of the self. And it's a G-center gate, center of identity, so that makes sense that we have the role of the self in interaction here. It's a gate that's looking towards the future. It's logical. It has the ability to see the direction that humanity is taking, and it can be very influential. Excuse me. Stop eating frogs in the morning. It can be very influential in pointing out a new way forward, and it's often described as the power behind the throne because of its influence. But it's not in the throat, it's the G center. So the throat is it's like that public figure side of it. And this is that sort of. And then we have gate 4 tomorrow morning at 8:48. And it's the gate of youthful folly, the gate of formalization, another logical gate. It's in the ajna this time. It's the need to understand things, to be able to have an answer to every question, but all the doubts, all the questions of the collective. It wants to be sure of itself. And the questions that it's getting, the answers that it's giving to the questions that it's getting, it doesn't much care whether those answers are correct or not. Actually, it just wants to give the answers. That's what gate 4 likes to do. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me, and I will see you again tomorrow for a 5th line day as we journey through gate 40. And until then, as always, go gently.